Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just waiting for you to all join me to start Friday's live surgery. Hi, Community London. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining. Just waiting for a few more to join and we're going to start. Today we've got a really interesting one. I'm looking forward to it. Lots of debate and conversation around today's topic, which is joint enterprise by murder. Murder, you know, how everyone joint enterprise is basically how everyone is joined in together in one crime. Andrew's going to explain more about it. I'm just going to wait for more of you to come on the live, and then we can start explaining. I'd want everyone to understand the lawful term first, and then we can explain how it's used in the system and in law, how it's worked. So Andrew can explain a bit more about that. And then we've got Daniel joining us from DAB Foundations at some point today. Hi there. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm trying to wave at you all. Just bear with me. I'm just waiting for a few more to join and we're going to start. So we're going to start by bringing Andrew in. Hi.
Hi Vic, how are
Good
you?
afternoon.
Great,
So,
excellent.
as I was saying, I just wanted you to explain as well, because you've got more personal experience about the topic that we are leading today.
Okay, so today basically it's a murder by joint enterprise. Joint enterprise is a very controversial doctrine in the law actually. It's been around for over 300 years. The reason how it originally started, which is quite interesting, was that years ago, during obviously certain times, they used to have dueling, you know. Someone would insult somebody or something would be said, and what happened is two men would go somewhere to an open field and they would pull pistols against each other and obviously shoot each other or try to shoot each other. During that time, crowds would attend to watch these people obviously, you know, take part in this duel. And it was a very, very, very popular thing, but obviously people were getting killed. So it was looked at that the crowds who attended these duels were encouraging them to take place. And the law decided to place something in there to say if you arrived at this duel, everybody would be charged effectively under the law of joint enterprise. And that was what happened. It didn't work out very well because obviously doctors and stuff would go up to the physicians would go up to the to the duels, yeah. And what would happen is they would also get arrested. So it was looked at as, you know, impractical. They brought it back round about the turn of the millennium for a number of reasons. A lot of people say it was to do with the Stephen Lawrence case, but also it was to do with the high influx of gangs. You know, gangs were kind of becoming quite a little prominent and stuff, and there were lots of shootings going on, and the police had difficulty, you know, getting to the root of it.
Yeah.
And it's also very easy nicking because, you know, unlike a conspiracy to murder, which a conspiracy means that evidence has to be made up from phone records, you know, from contact with each other, things like this, and they have to build a case to show these people are all connected. With joint enterprise, it simply means if you were in the vicinity, okay, when it took place, and you were in some way connected to the group of people, you know, who committed that murder or committed that attempted murder, everyone would be called charged with joint enterprise. Now, what obviously happened was a lot of young people who are in groups and, like, you know, a mob effectively, so to speak, anything exciting would be going on. They'd be travelling, obviously, you know, to the play or travelling to track someone down or whatever they do. But the reality of it is, when they were getting arrested for murder, everyone would have said to them, "Oh, don't worry, you've done nothing, you know, yeah, can't nick you, can only be nicked for murder, you know, it's like you've actually just killed the person, stabbed them or shot them, whatever." And they believed, obviously, that was what happened. Well, the biggest controversial part of it, the judge, when summing up, sends the jury out, and what he says to them is, if you believe this person had a foresight, and the foresight is, you know, what you were thinking. So they was asked the jury to read your mind, you know. If you had the foresight that probably this could have led to murder, yeah, or an intention of serious, you know, injury that could lead to murder, you'd be directed as found guilty. So That was the biggest issue. The other biggest issue, which the police thought, and that's why they done it really easy, because they could nick groups of people and take them off the street really quickly, was that, you know, if someone hasn't done a murder, the first thing they're going to say is, you know, no, I didn't do it, he done it, because no one's going to face a murder trial. But of course, through, you know, that they don't want to snitch, or they're saying, you know, through fear of reprisal, you know, stuff like this, and they believe that they'll be found not guilty at, you know, at trial. So they think, okay, it's not a problem, you know, there's no one going to be found guilty of murder. Well, guess what? Prison's full of young people on joint enterprise. And of course, joint enterprise, I say, is murder if you commit murder. And
do you feel that it's being used in a more negative way now than it is in a positive way?
Well, you know, you've got to look really carefully at joint enterprise affects the most. It's working class kids and, you know, people from the Afro-Caribbean nation background. So it's dominantly targeted at those two groups, because obviously they're you know, resources aren't really made available to them, like upper middle class white kids. Really, there are some, but very rarely found on joint enterprise cases. You know, who've got the, you know, the ability to pay them, so, you know, get good lawyers and, you know, get their way out of it very early. And obviously, you know, the whole gang thing as well was, you know, dominantly based around young people from estate, stuff like that. So it hits that target group. And I suppose, you know, there are some joint enterprise cases that are out there, and you know, you think to yourself, okay, well, the guys knew exactly what was going on. There's no doubt about that. You know, they knew what they were going to, and they'd done what they had to do, and they've got a long history of doing it. But I personally know people who I would classify as innocent in prison, doing stretches at 16 years, 17 year, 25 year, you know, 30-year recs. Okay, who, all right, you know, they was misled. You know, they basically, you know, move around with a little group of guys and what.
But this law is allowing the innocents' lives to be ruined.
It's what happens. It ruins a lot of people's lives, because what it does is, it, you know, someone could get caught up in this and they're serving a life sentence. They haven't even, you know, they haven't even thrown a punch. Do you know what I mean? You know, they haven't even carried a weapon, but they're caught up in it and they're doing life sentences because of the representation they had at court, you know, how they might come across, how the jury read them and interpret them, you know?
Yeah. I want to bring Daniel on as well, so we can talk about the experience of working with some young people who's been in this situation. Okay. I've just invited you, Dan.
Yeah.
Guys, if anyone's got any opinions, comments, please put them in the comment section, because that's what we're here. We want to have this discussion together. So you tell us what you think. We're just waiting for Dan.
While he's waiting to come on, though, but as I said, joint enterprise has been, you know, a sort of a topic of conversation, an issue constantly. The Supreme Court had overturned some joint enterprise convictions, and agreed and said basically for the past 30 years the law had been wrongly interpreted, you know. But in reality, very few of those convictions, who, you know, people who went down on joint enterprise, have been successful in getting their convictions overturned. Because, and I always say this, you know, once you're convicted of a crime, the hardest thing is to get yourself through the Court of Appeal. You know, because it reflects badly on the judges who have made those decisions, you know, and you have to be practical on it, you know. And so again, you know, it's something. It's been a big topic. You know, murder. There's no right. You know, there is everyone's a loser in the situation. You know, because
I think
young people in their lives as well.
I think in this day and age as well, you know, kids, you know, young people really don't. You know, they're not going to grasp. They feel loyal to.
They feel loyal to their gang.
And I feel that law really forces them into a situation when they can't say nothing, but yet they still have to be punished. They're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
They are, you know, a lot of it's out of fear as well. You know, they say, oh, they're going to do it stitch, but they're frightened what might happen to them, you know, the consequences if they do. So they're going to, you know, again, the misconception that by going to court because they haven't actually committed the murder, they'll be found not guilty. And the reality is, you know, the huge success rate on bringing on murders. And that proves it, because the prisons are literally packed with kids, you know, grown men now. They went in very young, and, you know, they've been in like sort of 10, 15 years. Because that's how long this law's really been, you know, well, 30 years actually, but 15 years it's been incredibly used by the police, because it's a great way of getting murder convictions, you know, and cleaning up murders. So as far as the police are concerned, and bringing kids off the street, that's, you know, let's get it right here. In their eyes, they think, oh, he was selling drugs and he was doing this, he was doing that. So we nick them all. And if we get a result, they'll all get 30 years. You know, well, that just ain't right. You know what I mean? Full stop. Because if you've got a disagreement and someone's doing something, if he's selling drugs, doing whatever, he ain't murdered no one, you know? So it's a lot of, there's a lot of, you know, things to look at that come with that mechanic, you know?
I'm just reading Daniel's comment here. People need to understand this loyalty is pointless when you're behind the wall without your boys for 18 years for what? It's so true because, you know, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people get it until they're behind the wall.
Yeah, they don't.
And unfortunately, that loyalty runs in, then the loyalty stays inside. And then this is how you end up, you know, getting yourself in a worse situation.
It gets back to the whole thing. Yeah, and it gets back to the whole thing with Gainesville, you know. This is what I say, it's senseless because, you know, they get caught up, they're doing life sentences because they want to be part of something and, you know, carry out beef and settle the score because of someone shot someone so long ago or something they didn't even know or know the person or the person's person. So beef's carried on. And when everyone goes to prison, they're all doing these 30-year sentences and 25-year sentences, they're all sharing a food boat together. Do you see what I'm saying to you? So these ones are killing each other, fighting against each other, and they're all in prison together, you know, without issue. So younger guys getting involved in the gangs who are fighting these old beefs, which were started by these elders, you know, the elders are getting on together. They're behind it all doing it. These kids just don't know that. You know, it's what's got enough.
They know so much about their business, their life. When you get into the system, they know nothing about what they're being charged with, what their rights are. Community London was just saying the same here. You're right. If you don't know your rights, you have no rights. And 100%. You don't know the system. So before you know, you're in prison and you don't even know how you've got there. Yeah. You know, how has it even got to this? Because all of a sudden you're just in this group, you're stuck in this group, but you feel loyal because you're with your group. But then you're not with your group when that door shuts and you're on your own.
Well, up until the point you get shipped out. So they all get remanded together. Fair enough. You're going to go to a certain prison. Everyone's together. But the minute you get that sentence, you're all getting separated. And, you know, and that's where the issue does come. Because, of course, you know, by nature, you surrounded yourself when you was on the street of enemies. Because, you know, you've got wrapped up in this gang postcode thing and you've isolated yourself from other, you know, other people. And, you know, you're going to feel that you're going to definitely going to be some sort of, you know, price to be paid for that.
I think as well, if you do end up in prison in this joint enterprise and you haven't actually committed the crime, you then have two ways again. You can then join that crowd in prison, be on that path, which is going to be a lot easier to be because you're going to be angry with the system itself. And if you've got that attitude from a young age, you sort of rebel straight away from them because you believe the system's done you wrong.
Vic, you know, there's one thing that I'm a great champion of, and I believe there's an old campaign for this. A lot of guys, you know, they make a mistake, they're getting themselves into trouble when they're young, they end up with a life sentence. After 10 years, after 10 years, providing you have accepted, you know, your behaviour and you're looking at yourself, you're reflecting, you naturally grow as a person. And these are but there's still another 20 years left to serve. And that's going to be pure bitterness because you were thinking, and you know, you're caught in a circle. You know,
take the time at the same time.
Vic, I would love to see the government take the bull by the horn and try and say these guys who were part of these gangs, who now could actually be a voice, allow them some sort of incentive. If they want to change their lives, so they want to talk to young people and, you know, spread a positive word and help develop courses how to get kids out of gangs, not make the mistakes they've made. The government should look at allowing them to readjust their sentences, give them a reward, you know, allow them to take off 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, a year, you know, because what benefit they can do could save hundreds of lives, thousands of lives, millions, tens of millions of pounds. Do you know how much it costs for a murder? Yeah. You know, I think Simon will give you the figure. I think that's about £5 million to actually prosecute a murder and put someone in prison for like 20, 30 years.
I guarantee it will cost half of that to actually employ people that know what they're doing.
A fraction of that.
In the first place.
A fraction of that, Vic. A fraction of that.
So we're spending all this money, and yet there's people like us sitting here, you know, struggling to get funding, grafting out, you know, our butts off to try and make a better future.
Mindless.
And they're wasting $5 million on this.
That's per murder, Vic. It's, you know, people don't realise how messed up the system actually is. And when they get to prison, there is nothing really constructive, no incentive for them, you know. And what happens is young guys get in, and how it works is, you know, they've got to make their bones early on, otherwise they're going to become a target. So, you know, their first few years in prison through the dispersal system, they feel if they're not disruptive, you know, and they smash up, stab up people, they don't do that kind of thing, they don't make a name for themselves. So as they move from prison to prison, they become a target. Now, if you can say to someone, it pays, okay, it benefits you if you do toe the line, you help and you try to change and take what you've learned and your experiences and give those, you know, attributes to younger people to stop them taking the same problem as you, there can be a sentence reduction for you. And once you know that can happen for you, you are going to toe the line. All this trouble you see in prisons, believe me, will be massively reduced, okay? Because of that, it's an incentive. It makes sense, okay? It's going to save the taxpayer money, it means keeping them in prison for less, you know. All these things will make so much sense. But we've got this unfortunate situation. People put themselves in this framework, punish them, you know. You can only punish someone. You're supposed to be a humane society. We stop hanging people out. Do you know what I mean? Give them the cat and nine tails,
like,
right?
Apart from hanging, what actually are we changing? The whole thing with
you keep them in prison. You warehouse them. That's all they're doing. Yeah. You're throwing them in a cell and want to leave them to rot. It'd be better if you hung some people, to be quite honest, like, you know, it's misery.
We're out of date. We need to, not only with the enterprise law, the whole system. I mean, everything has just been left in that same, you know, 200, 300 years sort of regime. We're not updating. There's no change. We're just doing what we do. Chuck them in, shut the door.
The prison system here, Vic, let me tell you this, right? Wandsworth as an example. So these were 18th century prisons, okay? And you can hardly call the Victorians very, you know, exceptionally kind or caring or concerning people. Yeah. These were one-man cells, okay, in 18th century. Yeah. You've got people two up in those cells now. You know, Belmarsh, they're three up in a cell. You know, and we're supposed to call ourselves a humane society? Come on. You know, it's worse and worse. You know, when you're... People are judged by their prisoners. You know that, right? If you go to a prison, you can judge the society of a country.
Everyone always asks.
By seeing how you treat the most vulnerable. Got it. Yeah. You know, it's a disgrace, if I'm quite honest with you.
It's
you
like
know, things
asking
need
where
to
you
change.
come from, isn't it? It's like it sections you, it stereotypes you. If you've been to this prison, if you've been to that prison, it's almost created like a reputation, like an area, hasn't it?
Listen, you know, look, there are different kinds of prisons, okay? And I'll tell you now, there are four categories. There's A, there's B, and there's C, and there's D, all right? And that's the reward, you know. If you become an A-cat prisoner, if you become a B-cat prisoner, you're going to work your way down to a C-cat, and when you get to a D-cat, you've got rules. Well, that's great. But you've been away for 20 years. Do you know how hard it is to adjust to spend the last 2 years, finally, when you get to that D-cat? You know, you're institutionalized, you know, and where you should get those people actually, you know, giving back to society in a positive way is, you know, 5 years, 6 years into that sentence, when they can start to actually realise what they've done and be able then to actually still be in touch, not put on a side burner and left to kind of, you know, go old and forgotten about. These young people out there still know these guys, yeah? These guys to them 5, 6 years in, even 8 years in, are still legendary. But if those people can go around and say, listen, this is all bullshit, this is all a lie, I fucked my life up, you know, I put myself in prison down to this rubbish, right? And look where I am now, you know, I'm shipped halfway across the fucking England, you know, I can't get family visits, you know, my parents are dead, my wife's, you know, gone and, you know, moved on, and my kids don't see me. They're the stories that needs to be told, you know, and give them a reality check. But locking them away, throwing them in a corner and say that's the problem solved isn't the right way.
Listen,
easy way.
I believe that works for a 3-year-old on time out. That doesn't work for anybody else, unfortunately.
It's 3-year-olds sticking in the corner and putting a naughty out on them. That's
exactly. It doesn't work like that. And I think when you leave someone to their own devices in a place with, you know, 23 hours a day just to think with just your head, and you've not got that good influence or someone to turn to, where are you going to go with it? You know, if you're on your own, you're never going to feel supported. You're never so... You know, the government need to start working with people that know what they're doing, because if you look at who actually works in this sector, how much experience have they got apart from a qualification?
They've done a damn cell, you know. And the reality is this, yeah, you had to have been there, seen that, and know that to be able to change it. You cannot just suddenly jump up and say, you know, we've got all the answers, we've got all the problems, because any political party decides this is their manifesto for the election. You know, you need to be having constructive thinking people with real ideas that will make real life changing decisions. And it will cost, right? It'll cost like you couldn't believe, and that money could be spent in far more productive things, training, educating, and actually giving people an opportunity to be, you know, progressive people who contribute to a society, you know. And it's a horrible system.
Put it this way, if you put away 4 boys, right, for a joint enterprise, you're looking at 20 mil easy, okay, say? And you tell me, with that 20 mil, I couldn't help to change their life. So it's easier to put them in a cell for 23 hours a day with no support, 5 mil spent, than it is to just put that money, divide it up and give them some sort of help.
Vic, that was good mathematics there. Let me tell you what, 20 mil.
I didn't want to do too many people.
Let me tell you what, 20 mil, okay, spread across 20 charities, £1 million a charity, that will run any damn charities for 3 to 5 years. Okay?
Exactly. And what can we do with that? I could promise them just 1 year I could change someone. So don't tell me we couldn't all do it.
Or you change hundreds of lives.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, it's very frustrating, you know, when you look at it, and it's a simple solution to some of the problems, but they're brave decisions that people have to make, you know. And unfortunately, politicians aren't very brave. You know, they're giving lip service, but when it comes to stumping up and saying, behind this, you know, they're going to run for the cover. Okay,
so here's another fault. When they brought the law back in for joint enterprise, that was because people were calling out for it. They were screaming because of a certain case that came up, right?
The gangs was another big issue.
So the sort of people spoken, it come back. It was easier to activate it,
yeah.
But now we want to talk about taking it away again. What? No. Well,
technically speaking, okay, joint enterprise as such, with the doctorate in law and them asking a jury to go out and, you know, assess someone, whether they've done it on their foresight, you know, reading their mind, okay, they can no longer use that, okay, to sum up. However, they're still taking people down on the same principle of joint enterprise. There's no phone evidence, there's no phone evidence. There's, you know, no real conspiracy that can be proven in a court of law. It wouldn't stack up, but they can still grab you under the same principles of joint enterprise that you were there, you know, with very little evidence. And, you know, it's very frustrating. I'm not trying to say someone's child has been killed, right? You want to find out who's done it, and that person who's done it must be punished. Do you know what I mean? Must be punished, right? Because no one will lose a child or a friend or, you know, anything, right? But at the same time, you know, there's fear and there's unfair, you know, and you have to give everyone a fair chance. Because the country says, you know, you're innocent until presumed guilty. You know, what they've done is they've spun this on its head. You know, now you're guilty until you win back your innocence.
Yeah. And this is what I think, if we just took a bit of time to actually look at that, say there's a group getting sentenced, why is it easier just to sentence them all to prison and fill up more prisons than it is to individually look and actually investigate and find, you know, the actual one guilty person and punish that person?
Well, you know, again, the whole way the system is backwards. You know, obviously murder is a serious thing, it's the highest charge in the land, you know, but even how we look at it, and someone said to me recently, a friend, and he, you know, had a really good idea. He ran across, said, you know what? He said, with these lesser offences, kids who get into trouble, what they do is, you know, give them a sentence, put them in prison, and they get to prison and they become worse, which is a fact. If you had an opportunity, you could say, you want to be strict on people? If a guy's going to get a sentence, let's say, you know, he hasn't offended too many times, he's offended once or whatever, say, okay, what we're going to do is the money we would now spend sending you to prison, we're going to give that money to a small business, okay, who needs the help. And, you know, if you want to become a car mechanic, right, a little body shop he works in, give it to that employer. Let the employer pay him a wage, which you can comfortably do, okay? The employer can get some money for himself to help his business survive. And you've taught a kid a career and you took him out of prison. Now, if he fucks up, right, he doesn't do that, give him a bigger sentence. Take him back to court and give him double what he would have got in the first place, all right? So if you want to change and you want to become somebody with an opportunity of being a decent human being, you're given an opportunity. You're not thrown into prison where you're going to mix with other people who have already gone down that road, who are going to probably turn you even worse. You come out with a criminal conviction behind you, and then you're at the bottom of the ladder again. You know, Oh, that's just for the basics. That's thinking on small sentences. On bigger sentences, have a ratchet system. Let them give back to society. Let them, influence these kids in a positive way by telling them that they fucked up.
You know what? 9 times out of 10, people just need somebody to talk to understand, to guide them. There's not even the basic funding there to do that most of the time. And, it's not hard. We scream and shout about mental health, okay? Everybody matters. But yeah, they're trapped in a cell and, their mental health doesn't matter. Now, they're left to deteriorate for, say, how long, however long, 12 months more.
Yeah.
And then come towards the end, someone says, oh, you're right, you've got everything you need, off you go and back out in the world. Now, how's anyone ever going to change if no one shows them change?
You can't. Einstein's definition of madness, okay, was doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Now, all they're doing is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different. You're not going to get a different result if you work on the same system for how many hundreds of years. Guilty, punished, prison, guilty, punished, prison, and not thinking outside the box. How do you expect to change to happen? They're supposed to intelligent thinking people. People with great knowledge. And actually, a great question a minute ago. Mental health. Mental health's ignored. Do you know how many people have got serious mental health issues and wrongly diagnosed, not diagnosed at all? Are in prison. They shouldn't be in prison.
They're in prison, so they've done something wrong. So that their mental health doesn't matter because they're saying, oh yeah, we're struggling out here with mental health. Well, you're not going to make the system any better if we don't start at the core. And I think that's the whole point of rehabilitation. You don't go to prison to get worse. You go to get better. But right now we're not seeing that. We've got the majority of it because we don't have the funding or the aids to get us there.
Imagine this, right? This is how it is. There's a high population, okay, of people that go to prison without a drug problem and come out with a drug problem.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Because what else you do for 23 hours a day, bored out of your head with no support and no guidance?
What on earth does that tell you? It's, as I said, it's a sickening situation. But there are some charities that are trying to do really well. Again, I spoke yesterday for one. Which is the Forward Trust, you known as RAPS before. Again, they're in lots of prisons and they do lots of positive stuff, and they, try to help people with their addictions and sort of bring them on a straight road. But you've got to deal with the general population in the prison as well. Guys who are never selling drugs, there are no courses for them to even think about rehabilitating or making transferable skills of what they were doing on the street to legitimate business. These kind of things are just common sense again. But
that's exactly what we're all trying to do. Mixed Foundation, DBA projects and AP Foundation together. We're trying to go out there, go into prisons, but we need more of us. We need more funding. We need more of us. And more people to stand for what it means instead of just going to work for money.
100%. You have to do it. If you have to do this thing because you are generally passionate about it. Otherwise, you just can't do it, right? When you've got the bigger organisations who are there, they're purely about monetising everything they do, okay? And you've got to do it because don't get me wrong, it's not, we run a charity, so it's a non-profit company, right, okay? And, there's no harm in making a profit, okay, from a business if you're helping people. For example, we're going to be moving forward with a housing platform, which is going to be announcing next week, which will be a game changer in terms of, housing, in social housing and rehousing reoffenders, and things like this. And as I said, and hopefully that will grow and that will be an impact on a lot of this, because people not being able to move from the environment or the place they're in is a big problem, okay? And that's a big problem getting back into gangs life, getting into trouble, putting people back on the street from where they've come from, or getting them out in time. It's a massive issue and it hasn't been properly addressed, and as I said, we're doing something about it. On the 7th, it becomes our 2nd anniversary of forming this charity. We was a CIC when we got formed on the 7th of May, and 1 year later we became a registered charity. But what our benchmark could be for our 2nd anniversary, and I'll tell you now, we're going to be releasing a platform for housing, which hopefully, as I said, is going to, will be a game changer. But
you would think, opening a charity like you have done we're trying to make it all accessible, all these different levels, and yet we have to find funding. So you would think the government would be chucking money at you because you are trying to make that change. Yet they have a spare $5 million to chuck someone in a prison, but yet we don't even kind of get a spare 5,000 to support people. people.
And it's the reality of it, unfortunately, you know. And you know what? I've always been very resilient, as all of us are, you know, yourself. And, you know, we, no matter what, we'll find a way, you know, because we don't stop at the door and say, oh, the door's closed.
No.
You know, the reality we have is break the frigging wall down. You know what I mean?
If everyone done that, how would anyone
Window, you know,
take a mistake in life and move on?
You know, what happens?
Yeah.
I think that maybe we should jump some people in, whoever wants to.
We are not having no luck with that today, but I just didn't want to let anyone know the technology was going again, but I cannot add anyone onto our conversation.
Okay, wow, okay, right.
I'm just going to try again now.
Okay, go for it, Vic. I wonder why that is then.
Simon must just be getting request after request from
Oh,
you.
God. Right,
But
okay.
I don't think, guys, if it doesn't let you join, could you maybe try and add, like, ask to come in the conversation?
You know what? Maybe what about this one, Vic? I'm going to try something very, very brave now. I'm going to jump onto the APF Instagram, okay, on this phone and see if it's possible. No, stay on it. Let's see if I can try some magical trick. Maybe. Right.
Guys,
okay.
if we go missing, you know why.
But
we'll be straight back.
If I go missing. Let me jump. Actually, I'll jump off. If I jump off, that's cool. You stay where you are, and maybe you could add someone else.
Could I just try and jump off and come on again?
I'm gonna let me jump off, and you see if you can add someone. I reckon that's the simplest way.
We'll
go back to it.
This Instagram. Right. Sorry about this, guys. You know what it's like on a weekly basis. Okay, so Andrew's left. I'm gonna just try and invite you guys again. Let's see what happens. Okay, unavailable. Please. Okay, Dan, I say Mixed Foundations is unavailable, so now I'm trying you.
Oh, Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yeah!
It worked.
I've never been so happy to see you!
It worked.
Hello! I thought you were just going to be typing all day.
Yeah. I did all.
How you doing? Right, Dan, so what I'm burning to ask you is, obviously you've worked with a lot of young people and stuff, so how often have you come across this and what is your personal opinion on it?
Yeah, I've come across, I had a big case in Harrow about 3 years ago, young person or a young crew. One of their boys got stabbed on the Tuesday. I think by the Thursday or the Friday, they had started to retaliate and going back down to Harrow and looking for people, so on and so forth. There was a crew of them in a cab looking around. Went to the wrong place, went to another place. The young kid that I was working with, he didn't actually get out of the cab. He did get out of the cab, but he didn't go nowhere near the murder. And the murder was the best part of like 200 meters down the road, round the corner. My young person's doing 18 years. He didn't do the murder.
How is that affecting him? Obviously not great, but I mean, how is that affecting him? Is he getting any support? Has he got any way out of this?
It's really weird. So once a young person goes into prison, once they're on remand for a period of time, you're able to support them. But once they're sentenced, that support, social services, everybody disappears from their life.
That's amazing, isn't it?
So for the next 18 years. So
when they really need you,
yeah.
Once, you know, all the information's laid out, the police have got everything. Once the police have got what they need, yeah. You're then told to leave. You cannot participate in any of that.
You're sort of thrown to the side, and I guess
somebody tell me how the hell is that right?
Well, it isn't right. And I guess the frustrating thing, and I'm sure that Simon would definitely say something very similar, because I know some of, obviously, me and Simon worked closely for many years, and I know some of his cases. I think the frustrating thing for us is nobody listens. Nobody listens. So we can sit there and we can say to a professional,
Dan, the noise is gone. Dan? Dan, I can't hear you. Dan. Oh no. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear nothing. Okay, 1 minute. Guys, I'm so sorry about this. It just went really dead then. Hi, Aim. Do you want to come on in a bit if I can get you on? Hi, Dan.
Hi, Vix.
Right there. I thought it was all over.
You know, I was just chatting away, and then I could hear my missus.
I'm starting to do sign language.
You doing something, but I could hear my missus in the other room. She started laughing. I was thinking, what's she laughing at? She's listening.
See, women understand women.
She can hear me, but you can't.
I start doing all this soon. Doing
I
letters
don't know how
like
far
this.
you heard me to. I don't know where you got me to. I don't even know where I got to.
Where was we? So basically, when he went in, that was where his support stopped.
Yeah. And I think, so our frustration, I know one of the things that we get frustrated about, and I know Simon would say something very, very similar, is that the professionals don't always listen to us. And what ends up happening is that they end up not listening to our judgment calls of the support and what direction we need to go in. Then the young person ends up getting nicked, and then they end up doing a birdie for 18 years for a murder, where if they actually listen to us, who have got the live life experience, we're trained mentors, we've all been doing this work for a long time, then maybe we could alleviate some of these situations and scenarios. And it frustrates us hugely.
I think what's more frustrating is even, everyone can see it for themselves, even the police officers, the prison guards, everything, by letting us go in there and continuing to support people, we're making all them other people's jobs easier. I don't understand how we don't benefit, how everyone benefits from it. So I don't understand why you wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's a really old school attitude, and it's so out of date.
Yeah, massively. And all we're doing at the moment, it feels like at the moment that we just got a generation of kids that are just absolutely out there doing craziness. But we've got a generation of kids that are all murderers. Kids that are murderers.
Watch the news this week. I mean, shocking. It's shocking.
And I think I even said it in the group chat at some point this week, where I said there's a young person that we're working with at the moment who actually was able to give me a bit more insightful information around that murder that's happened over in Canning Town this week. That young kid's brother got murdered 3 years ago. And,
wow.
I don't want to say too much, but what he was saying to us was basically that he got caught slipping in the wrong area. That's why he got murdered. He's nothing to do with anything. And he's just because his brother was part of something. And when
someone's mum has lost both her sons because he was in the wrong part of the town. Really, like I just can't even believe.
No.
I just don't even know how we've got here. Like, it is just shocking. Like, I'm looking around, and unfortunately, it is a whole generation.
And that's what
they're getting younger and younger. Yes. Every day there is not one person on in now that doesn't hear about stabbing and mugging, who's not been affected by something personally with their family, their friends. It is becoming too regular, too normal.
And that's what it is. And I think that's the problem. It's become normalized. And one of the issues is what happens to everybody else. These young people, they don't think about their mum, their dad, their auntie, their cousin, their uncle, their grandmother, their grandfather, their brother, their sister, their own children, their missus, so on, their friends. It affects so many people. It's not just that young person who's done the murder or the person who's been murdered. There's a whole ripple effect. And it's just
how comes we can create such a bad role model to go out and be stabbing each other, but we can't set that good role model. Do you understand what I mean? Like, we're on this bad street where everyone's following each other. But who do we get to stop that, to follow the right road? How comes it's so much cooler to just, be on the wrong path than it is the good path?
Because one of the things, and I remember we spoke about this a good few weeks ago in one of our surgeries, a lot of it as well comes down to the parents.
Yeah, it does.
You've got to take some responsibility. I've sat in a room before when a young person was when he was getting charged for murder. And I sat in a room with his mum, two big barristers, police officers. And I said to them, and I just threw it out there. I said, listen, I've got children myself. When my kids hit a certain age, if I feel that they're getting up to something or they're doing something wrong, I'm keeping them in the house. And if they want to go and call social services and go and call the police, feel free to do it, because all I'm trying to do is safeguard my children. Mm-hmm. Okay. And if people think, oh, well, you're out of order, you shouldn't be locking them in the house. Well, I'm stopping my child going outside with a knife. I'm stopping my child to go and get stabbed. Why are parents not having this responsibility on them anymore?
I also hear a lot from parents saying things like, well, they have to, they're always sticking up for their children carrying weapons because, well, they have to, you don't know how rough it is out there and all that. Rough? Well, then he ain't going out there.
There you go.
It's like the child is the parent. Like, I've seen the way they tell their mums. And as well, what happens, I notice, if you come from like, a poverty background and they're going out and they're earning money and they give their mum their money, they then own their mum.
Yes.
And every time their mum tries to put a stop to it, it's like, well, how are you going to eat tonight? Or what about that £50 I gave you last week? No. This needs to stop. You need to break the barrier. You are the parent and you're the child, say, because I look sometimes at parents and children, I think, I want to just walk over there and be like, you're the adult.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a generation where the children are ruling the parents almost.
Yes.
I couldn't even tell my mum to shut up as a child without running 3 miles.
And a lot of these kids, they're not fearful of their parents no more. And I don't mean sense of parents are going to be beating them or anything. I don't mean
I'm still petrified of my parents to this day.
Of hearing that voice of, no, you're not doing that. And okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to go up to my room. None of these kids are able to, they're walking out of the house with doing whatever, because they've got money.
Yeah.
You know, when you got young kids that are earning $1,000 a week who are 15, 16, what can you, as a parent, me personally, I know I'm going to be able to stop it. I know anybody within the AP Foundation, DBA Project, Mixed Foundation, because that's the way of our mindset.
Yeah.
But parents today, they've got to start to look at themselves, and you know, sometimes why are they bringing kids into this world? If you ain't going to be able to manage yourself, why bother?
Well, I do believe, I think as a parent, if you're making excuses and finding ways why it's acceptable, your child will never know no different.
There you go.
No, and I feel like if you just accept the way the life is, I mean, life will never stay the same. So you know, you look at your son, and he's out there doing this and doing that, and he believes that he's like marching his way up in the chain, like you would do if you worked for Sainsbury's. Say, there's almost like a chain now that you have to follow. Yeah. You know, with the money you're making. You know, when you're out on the road and you feel, I'm making money, and then your boy say, oh no, you've got to get more than that. Now you've got to aim for the next level. Yeah. And where does it stop? Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. And this whole grooming thing and the elder thing, a lot of these young kids don't realise they're being groomed. They don't realise. They all think these elder in my bedrooms, they're helping. Look at the man's giving me money. All this rubbish and all this bull. Stop. It ain't real. It's a kind of attention as well, isn't it? A kind of affection in a way. You belong somewhere. Yeah. We all want to belong somewhere in life. And, you know, a lot of people find they belong. I guess that's what they're looking for, because a lot of these kids ain't getting it at home. A lot of these kids. Exactly. And it's almost like, you know, you're not looking for affection, but it's when you're part of a group, you know yourself, it's that comfort feeling. Yeah. And when you are in like a family or something, you want to do that family proud. You know, so if all my family are out robbing, then I'm going to rob as well, because I'm going to make them proud. If all my family are out, you know, fighting, then I'm fighting too. You know, it is what your little family is that you create. So it really comes down to them choices you make. But sometimes you don't even have that choice. You grow up with these kids. And you know what? I was just about to say the next thing. A lot of these kids, they've all gone primary school together. Yeah. So that's your boy from day. That's what I mean. And then how can you tell him you're not going to go with him to nick the bike or whatever? Yeah. Because then you're not a good friend, are you? Yes, and this is where the loyalty thing comes down, and the enterprise comes back in, because that's really not fair. People really don't understand the loyalty that there is. Yeah. And someone has to be punished because of that. How can you have loyalty for murder? Where's loyalty to go and murder another young person for the sake of them looking at you in the wrong way? But they believe in their family, so they manipulate it themselves to believe they're right. Yes. Yeah. It's mad. It's honestly this whole society at the moment. And you know, when you and Andy were talking about the government and everything earlier on, they need to really start to look at themselves, because nothing's changed. I can go back 20 years ago, where one of my brothers living in South London, exactly the same situation, where we've all gone to school together, and somebody's gone and shot somebody outside a barber shop, and it's like, well, how can that be? We're 20 years down the line. What's changed? And nothing, because we're dealing with an outdated system. We're 300 years down the line with a law system. Yeah. And that's exactly, you know, where we're going to stay. Nothing changes if you stay in the same position. Yeah. And if you look at the people that are running these laws and making these decisions, they don't get out of bed because they've got a passion. They get out of bed because it pays their mortgage. Yes. So the choices are not based on human rights and actual humans. Yeah. They're based on money, statistics. And what they're going to get. Exactly. Exactly. Because none of these guys, you know, they haven't got the understanding and the background to even formulate or get just even a slight picture of what is the reality for some of these young people. What is the reality for some families in deprivation, in absolute poverty? Some of these families that have been going through the pandemic with absolutely nothing. Both mum and dad might have lost their jobs, having to go to food banks and things like that. That deprivation, that starts to have an impact on a young person's mental health. This is where our job should be starting, isn't it? Yeah. Not when they're getting in a prison cell. This is where we need to be. We need to be building that community and building that family now, so we don't get to that stage where they have to go out and nick something to feed their family, and then the mum and dad have to sort of comply with that because they've also got nothing. Exactly. If the family's got support like the parents, then the pressure's not even on the children as much, because, you know, when you're a young person like your son or a daughter, and you
Mm.
see your mum struggling,
Yeah.
you feel obliged to want to do something. And I think it's harder for boys because especially you feel like you're the man of the house.
Yes.
And when you see your little brother struggling and your mum struggling, I can relate to why people get themselves in that situation.
Yeah.
But if we could just find them some sort of support before when we're at that stage, we won't be, you know, getting into a lot worse situations where we need to waste £5 million to put somebody in prison.
Crazy. And these kids need to understand what joint enterprise means and what it's like to go sit in a cell for another 18, 25, 30 years without your boys. Because like Andy said earlier on, the amount of kids I've got at the moment that are in jail at the moment, they're on remand, they think everything's wicked, they're with their people, they're in their own clothes. But as soon as that sentence comes, it's over. Because you ain't with your people, you're all being shipped out left, right and centre. You're wearing the prison clothes for the next 25 years of your life.
I think as well, you know, when you're, especially if you've not been to prison and if you're part of your crew and you first go in, it's almost like a holiday, like, but the novelty does wear off to the point you think, I've had enough now, I want to go home.
Exactly.
I think, you know, like remand is that place where you're sort of all, you know, you're walking around, you're cool still.
Cool. Everything's cool because you're seeing people, you're all in your own clothes, people are bringing you in stuff, you're getting your food and bits and bobs. Everything's cool. But once the reality of suddenly you're sentenced to 18 to 20 years, you're with none of your boys. And like Andy said, that postcode issue that you've had outside, that hasn't disappeared inside.
No.
I see some of the people that you've got a problem with. And that's where, again, with our courses and everything that we're trying to do, we're trying to create that change in the prison, in the prison system as well. And people need to be listening to that. What we're trying to create and do at the moment with our organizations is trying to alleviate some of these issues that we're weekly talking about, especially this knife crime and this joint enterprise. It is ridiculous. Young people need to start to understand if you are associated with somebody and they go and murder somebody, you're going down for murder as well. So just remove yourself from these people because it ain't no positivity for you.
I just think there are some people, there are some groups that are able to go into prison and help people. I just don't think there's enough. And I do believe there are so many people sitting in a cell that do want that opportunity to change.
Yeah.
And I think if they're given it, especially in an environment where, you know, you can be yourself and, you know, it's not got to come out of your own time in a way and stuff like that. If you get in at this certain point, I feel like you really can make that change.
Yeah.
You've got so long to get in there and get the job started.
Yeah.
You know, build it up.
100%, I agree with you. Listen, I'm going to say, drop me out because I know Simon's...
Bring Simon in.
Yeah, let Simon...
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Have a great day.
Darling. Take care.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm just waiting for Simon to come on. Hi, Jade. Give us a message and we'll get in touch with you. I'll give you a message after we've done the live today. Hi, Simon.
Hey, how you doing?
I think Instagram's gone back to 2 people.
It definitely has, because when Andy came out, I saw that Dan got straight in, so I thought, let me give it a try now.
Yeah, right. So we're 2 people at a time now. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm even better now I've got on the show.
Oh, I know. I'm glad to see you. I thought I was going to be stuck talking just me again. I thought they were all going to.
Oh, last week was mad, wasn't it? I couldn't even get on at all.
I'm not the best technician, let me tell you.
No, you're doing well.
So I wanted to ask you what your opinion is on joint enterprise and your experience working with it.
Okay, so joint enterprise, basically, my interpretation is if someone pulls the trigger of a gun, and they're the principal. If a secondary party is with them, one of their brethren, then they get pulled in just as if they pulled the gun. There was a bit of a change in the law, I believe, in 2016, where they said that it's been wrongly interpreted for the past 30 years. They were trying to look into people's cases for people to sort of appeal and things like that.
Yeah.
But joint enterprise, just going when your friends get locked up, whether it's joint enterprise, whatever the term is, it's the same thing anyway. And I've got a young person now that I'm working with who is on a murder charge. And all he did was call a taxi, went to meet his friends after they murdered somebody. Yeah. Called a taxi or got an Uber from his phone, and now he's on a murder charge. So.
And now, I suppose, well, his whole life's now ruined.
Yeah, well, obviously, we hope that, you know, he can get out, but he's been in there for a good while.
And has he got any support?
Yeah, he's got support. I'm supporting him. Mixed Foundations are supporting him. He's one of my young people.
And how's he coping?
To be fair, I heard what Dan was saying earlier on. I heard what Andy was saying earlier on as well. And he's like loving the life while he's in there. You know,
Right.
it's
that
he's
same
gone,
thing what they were
yeah.
saying. Yeah.
So
right now he's in the novelty phase of thinking he's quite cool.
yeah,
And you're
yeah,
trying to show him that, you know, it's not going to last like that.
yeah.
But do you find it hard to get through to him because he's in this sort of mode right now?
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, obviously, he'll engage with us. We're doing video links, and we're going to start visiting again now. You know, now we're coming out of lockdown.
Do you think not seeing him face to face is making it harder?
Yeah, because he's really enjoyed the video calls. To be fair,
Yeah,
he's enjoyed that, and a real physical visit,
yeah,
will be really good.
Yeah,
but,
it might have more of an impact, I suppose.
Yeah, but what you find is, Vic, with these young people, especially he's 16 now.
Yeah,
they do certain things where they think they're big men and everything. Then they'll do something so stupid, which links them to something because that's the child in them. They're not developed enough to cover the tracks and everything.
Yeah.
Not trying to endorse any bad behaviour, but I'm just saying the child within them gets them caught because they revert back to a child. Oh yeah, I use my phone.
Yeah.
You know, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel that's what I just feel like. I feel like it's even. I think it's just even worse if you just had no support. You don't know. You've had no guidance and stuff like that. I think it's really hard to sort of look at them as they're guilty. Like, you know, I almost look at them and think, oh my God, they needed some help. They needed some guidance.
Of course, of course.
And if we could get out on the roads before, you know, when we're at that early stage, and really would make that difference. Because I'd feel like, say, out of every 10, 7 of them might know what they're doing. But there will always be that odd 3 there that are questioning, is this what they should be doing? And if there's no one there to sort of pull them away and change that, they're going to go. And then you have got 10 that are all bad because they've accumulated with each other and encouraged it.
Of course. You know, the sad thing is as well, Vic, about this particular young person is that he was involved in county lines and all that. We moved him out of London. Yeah. And we got him working really well. I gave him one of my mentors for a year. Got him into college, everything. And I think Dan mentioned earlier on, we said, don't move him back down there yet. Let's do this, that, and the other. Moved him down there and ended up getting caught in that. His life had turned around. He realised county lines was grooming. Yeah. He said there's no love on the streets. I thought I was a big man. All that kind of stuff. And now we've lost him to prison because, you know, what do we know? We're just a third sector organisation. But actually, we know a little bit about a little bit. And we could have probably kept him out of jail. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
But this is the thing, like you said, it shows that what you do works, because when you had him and you were working with him, you changed his life around. Yeah. But then what happens if you go off and you're on your own again for too long without that guidance and not a role model around? It's really easy to slip back into the you know, the negatives again.
Of course it is. Of course it is. And what you need to do, it needs to be a phased return as well, because reintegrating back into old society. Well, I don't believe he should have gone to his exact place, but London's a big place, so we could have reintegrated. We could have done planned visits, day visits down there, start getting things in place. But no, straight back down there, bam, gone straight on the roads. So
and there's proof how it does not work. There's no consistency.
No, not at all.
You've just wrote in the comments here, it needs to be consistent. That is so true.
It does, 100%.
The funding runs out. Yeah. And then, or, you know, or the project sort of ends and people go on about their life.
Of course.
And they're not fully supported. They're still not fully there.
No, they're not.
There's
not
no
quite.
point doing half a job, is there?
No.
And then you're back doing your job again, and now you're back to square one almost. But this time he knows all the stuff we've already taught him, which makes it even that little bit more worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But if he does get out, then obviously we're going to move him away and we're going to keep him. We're going to give him a fresh start, you know what I mean, and do that. But going back to also what you were saying, Odie, you were talking about the charge of the cost of a murder. So when I started doing this work about, how long have I been doing this now? Probably about 13 years. Yeah. The cost of a murder was 1 million then.
Wow.
And then a couple of years ago, a few years back, it went up to about 1.7. Now it's like 4 and 5 million. So we used to go to the police and local authorities and say, right, it costs 1.2 to commit a murder. Give us 200 grand and we'll save a load of lives, and, you know, we'll go and work with these people to help prevent these murders. That's how we started.
Actually really shocked me. I never knew how much it cost. So like today, that has like really shocked me. It's made me actually angry inside, because I can't actually believe no one's even stopped and looked at a bit of paper and tried to work this out better.
Yeah.
How can you just throw 5 mil in a system? an old, tired, banged out system that has just been going on and on and on.
Yeah.
You know, all these that work for the system and not one person, all this funding that the government try and save, and not one person has thought of a way to try and make that 5 mil better spent.
Yeah, and then you've got the prison sentences as well. That's going through the courts and all that kind of stuff, remand, policing, forensics. And then you've got the actual prison. If they're getting 10, 18 years, then you've got the cost of the prison each year. So
and a lot of
just
people
mad money.
That towards the end of the sentence or time to get out, they might be put in touch with some projects or some, you know, some ways to help. Well, that's good and well, but I feel like almost that might be a bit too late sometimes.
Exactly.
Because that person already knows what they want to be when they get out of here. But if you'd got in there that bit earlier, you might have helped change that character for when they leave.
Of course. And that's another thing, gate mentoring. So when you're working with somebody in prison, obviously you build that relationship, you look at rehabilitation, you look at reparations, things like that, and you look at what you're going to do differently when you come out. 9 times out of 10, if a young person gets picked up by his friends, he's going to go straight, they probably have weed in the car, they probably have knives in the car, they probably take him straight on a job. So we believe in building the relationship as mentors. Then you're going to meet them at the gate. So you're going to take them, get them housed, get them to the benefits, get them into training. So that gate mentoring is definitely what they need. They need somebody when they're on the inside who can come and visit them and can get them ready for when they come on the outside instead of going straight back into the same old, same old.
It's like with anything really in life. You wouldn't, you know, even when you prep a patient to leave a hospital, someone comes to collect you, you're checked on before you leave to make sure you're all right. You know, you go in any situation, in any vulnerable situation, and you need to be supported. But yet in a prison where you're sent to rehabilitate yourself, there's no support.
No.
And the thing is, what I would contest is anyone that would say that 5 mil is not a waste of money, right? I guarantee you, if you gave AP Foundation, DAB Project, Mixed Foundations 5 million, I promise you we could show you more results than a prison sentence ever would.
Well, we'd save a lot of lives, put it that way.
We would. And
I believe we'd save a lot of lives with those resources.
Funding, that's what they should be doing, testing it out. Because we've got all this funding to build, you know, buildings that look like gherkins in London, but yet we haven't got the money to help young people. It makes no sense to me.
No, it is crazy. It is crazy.
So we plan to change the system, don't we?
We do. It's a drop in the ocean, but any little changes we can do,
we're going to give it a go, and anyone along the way that can join our little army and make sure we're heard, that's what we want to do. We want to make that change. Yeah,
we're building to do that together.
And I'm pretty sure together, if we can make some change, we can just keep on building and until we take all their 5 mil.
Yeah, and do something productive with it and save some of our young people's lives and let them have a future.
Simon, thank you so much.
No, thanks. I'm glad that I got on anyway. Yeah,
we'll be back on in a couple of weeks, because we won't be back next week, the week after. So try not to work too hard. And it's Bank Holiday Monday, so that means you can actually have a day off, Simon.
Fantastic. Can't wait.
Order, do you understand?
Yeah, I'm listening, Vicky. I'm listening.
Okay, don't make me ground you.
All right, then.
And you, Dan, you better have a day off on Monday as well. Andrew's in his cupboard. He's not coming out till Tuesday.
Nice one.
I'm going to bring Andrew back in for our last little bit. But I'll see you soon. Take care.
Cheers, Vicky. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Loving it, Dan. All good. Hi, Andrew.
Yeah, I think it's really, really positive today. And you know what? Really Enterprise is something that, you know, needs to be, the light still needs to be shone. I know that people think it's all, you know, come to its end now because of the Supreme Court ruling. But as I said, one thing I've got to, you know, put it down to is this. The prison is still full of people who were young men, you know, boys really, who went in the system and were charged with joint enterprise. And now a lot of those guys are grown men. A lot of those guys have actually, you know, have seen the errors of their ways, you know, 5 years, 10 years into their sentence. And these are the kind of people that can stay behind the door to, you know, to go very, very old in prison, have no life, no chance of, you know, coming out to anything or being something. Why don't the government look at these people as potential assets and maybe looking at some of their sentences to be, you know, registered back if they're prepared to help build a better society, to talk to young people, to let young people know who they are, the mistakes that they made, you know, before it's too late. And, you know, this is just one simple, you know, a very simple-minded thing just to think and look about and just check yourself, you know. And as I said, any information you want, contact us at AP Foundation, Info AP Foundation, Mixed Foundations, the EBA project. You know, we can help us any way we possibly can. And as I said, look out for stuff that's happening this week. All things being well,
We've got lots coming up, haven't we?
Anniversary of the foundation, and look out for our new housing platform, which will be launched as apfhousing.com.
Yeah.
And hopefully that too will change lives, resettle people and get them back into hopefully safe, secure premises that they, you know, haven't got to be frightened for their life.
Anyone that's looking for any help, anyone that wants to help us, you can contact AP Foundation, you can contact DBA Project, and you can contact Mixed Foundations. We all work together. We want to make a change. So if there's anything you can offer or anything you need, then you contact us. We're here 24/7.
Fabulous.
Andy, anything else for today?
That's it. I think we've done well.
Perfect. Guys, we will see you. We're not here next Friday, the Friday after. Another great topic. We'll have some people on with us. Hopefully Instagram will let me have some more people and the technology won't play up. Thank you so much, everyone.
Great.
Thank you for your comments, everyone. Anyone that needs us, just contact us. Thank you.
And you can catch this also on our YouTube channel. That'll be probably put up there over the weekend. So if you missed any of this interview today, you can go to Andrew Pritchard Media at YouTube channel, and you'll be able to catch up and also watch some of the previous episodes which we've done in this series.
Wesley for life. I'll get in touch with you once I come off the live. I just see your message there. Guys, Nanny, Lauren, I am the author, I think. Guys, you've been here really great today, really supporting us. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us and commenting and getting involved. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend. Happy bank holiday.
Great, guys.
See you later. Bye-bye.